The following is a GoPowerCat.com production.
Welcome to the Big Insiders. I'm not Big B. I'm Fitz sitting in today for Big B. He might join us later, but it's 53 degrees in Houston. I'm jealous. At Ryan Gilbert's apartment, it's currently 1,000 degrees because it's always hot in there, ladies. Yep, at Studio 73 with Brien Hanley, it's 29. And right here in the Flint Hills with the Cats and Dogs studio, it's 10 stinking degrees. And this is the Big Insiders.
Welcome to the Big Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
I should have saved the explanation for me not being Brien Hanley to this point.
Awkward.
I am joined today by my own sidekick on many of our things, but our basketball beat writer, Ryan Gilbert, across the town in his luxurious Aggieville suite apartment. And of course, my good buddy, Rob Sellers from Houston. He's down there. He's a very important man, and he shaved his head for us today.
Yeah, shaved in my face.
I didn't get the memo, did I?
Yeah, how'd you miss that one?
Yeah, you would look really goofy bald. I mean, really.
You look goofy, so yeah, it makes sense.
Oh, speaking of strays.
Yeah, I know. I have been working on Ryan Gilbert's own show, which hopefully is releasing right now. I don't know. And ill prepared for this, but boys, let's get to talking about Big 12 basketball. Rob, welcome to the Big 12.
Yeah.
Look, this didn't go so well for Houston first couple road trips. Has this been a shock to the system down there?
It has been a little bit. You know, they kind of, I'm sure most of the fans have been spoiled with the way they dominated the American towards the end there as Kelvin Sampson started kind of building towards what they've got now. And, you know, there was a few teams every year they would battle. Obviously, Memphis was in there every year, and those were good battles and stuff. But for every Memphis, you had another team that was, maybe not as scary. And so you had some gaps in there. And I don't think similar to football, although basketball is obviously in a little bit better spot than what football was. I'm not sure if everybody for sure expected just what that night in, night out grind of playing a good team every night, regardless whether it's the top team or a middle tier team. Everybody in the Big 12 is going to be a competitive ball game. So I think it's been a little bit of a shock to them, but it helped a lot with the win midweek over Texas Tech, giving them their first Big 12 loss, kind of rejuvenated it. And now the fans, I think, are kind of set in and understand what it's going to be like. And they haven't even got to Kansas or Texas yet. So,
yeah. They hammered Tech. Tech rolled in unbeaten, and they kind of sent them back to Lubbock wounded. That had to be a relief to see Houston play at that high level after a couple.
Jamal Shed kind of really went off and had himself a game. LJ Cryer's been in a bit of a slump. Started off fine, but last few games, specifically those two losses, a bit of a slump. Kind of cold from the floor, and started out the same way against Tech, and then I don't know, something got inside Jamal Shed, and he's obviously a talented player, but 29 points, 10 assists.
Wow.
He was 12 of 16 for the floor, 2 of 3 from 3, and 3 for 3 at free throws. So pretty much whatever he wanted to do, and it was like you said, it was a shot rejuvenation, so to speak, for the fan base. And yeah, we don't need. I mean, yes, it's a different breed being in the Big 12, but we also belong. We can compete night in, night out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Rob, here, real quick, Fitz, I want to ask you, LJ Cryer, that was a guy when he went into the portal, a lot of K-State fans were, hoping and begging for this guy to come to Manhattan. I never really saw that. I think if you leave Baylor, with how close Tang and Scott Drew are, right? If you leave Baylor and Tang wants you, he's here. There's no sort of recruitment process. And so if you are going to leave a school like Baylor, you probably didn't maybe see eye to eye, right or wrong, with Scott Drew and that staff. And so I never saw that happening. It didn't. He goes to Houston, and you mentioned his recent struggles. Do you think K-State fans really missed out on a guy like Cryer?
I think he'll recover. I do. I think it's just a little slump. I don't think it's anything that'll be long-term. He's never had a problem scoring. Scoring's never been the issue for him at all. He's talked a lot early on about the transition and even knowing what he was getting into coming into Houston in terms of Kelvin Sampson's demand physically and in terms of just the defense that he asked and the energy he asked you to play with on every single play. A lot of people obviously were concerned about that. It was even mentioned before the season. I think before it's said and done, we'll see if they end up regretting him not being there or not. It'll probably depend, most likely how he plays against them. That probably will help or hurt either way, just from the way the fans go. But I think he'll be all right. I think he'll come out of this. I don't know what it is, and I'm sure he's pressing at this point just as much as everybody's hoping he's getting better. So I think he'll be all right. I really do. I think he'll end up contributing down the stretch, and we'll see how this team comes together towards the end as they get ready for the tournament and all that. They're really starting to miss Terrence Arsenault, though. It's a guy that went down with an Achilles injury, and so they're starting to miss him some as another guard kind of to throw in there and to mix things up and keep the rotation going. But they're getting there slowly but surely.
And Gills, you bring up Baylor. Of course, the Bears came into Bramlage Coliseum this week. Can you explain to me how K-State won? I have tried to do it like 5 different times, and I can't figure out how with 17 turnovers and taking 22 fewer shots, you win a game against a top 10 team, but K-State did.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to win games in the Big 12 when you turn the ball over like that. And to be honest, Fitz, I think Baylor had an off night shooting. The more we take a step back from this game, we can highlight all the good things that K-State did, the bench stepping up and really providing some good energy and some key moments in that game. But overall, man, Baylor made 3 shots in the first and second half, and they made 2 in overtime. And so that's 5 for a whole 45-minute span. And so coming into the game as the number 1 3-point shooting team in the country, it's unreasonable to expect Baylor to do anything like that ever again all season. I'm sure the home court advantage, the crowd, did that help, rattle the Bears a little bit? Maybe, sure. There may be something to be said there, but overall, and I know Tang, he didn't mention this on Tuesday after the game, but he's done this in the past year and a half at Kansas State since he's gotten here in Manhattan, whether it's about a specific player from an opposing team or just the opposing team in general. The question he'll get asked post game, what'd you guys do to stop this guy? What'd you do to stop this team? Some guys have just off nights, and he'll give you an answer that we didn't do much on our end. Now, K-State played good defense, sure, but Baylor, there's games in the Big 12 where it doesn't matter who you're playing, you're going to lose just because the other team is having such a phenomenal game. And on the flip side, you're going to get a team like Baylor that you can play sloppy, 17 turnovers, a really slow start once again for Kansas State and come out on top. But that's just the Big 12 for you, Fitz.
It really is. And it's impossible. Dude is completely killing a toy right now. I don't know if you can hear it in the background. But that's just life in the Big 12. And Rob, that's probably, it's not just about going out and playing better teams than what you saw in the American. Hilton Coliseum is a mess. I mean, it's Hilton Magic is a real thing. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's something too the fans have noticed. The first game they went to, Iowa State was the first one they went on the road to. And so that was kind of a welcome too. Everyone was impressed, obviously. Everyone knew it was frozen up there, but I mean, they don't care. You guys up in the Midwest are so used to it as we battle with a cold snap, as I was joking a while ago. We might get below freezing again tonight. Those folks in the Midwest, they don't play around. They care less about snow and ice. And so, they were, a lot of fans noted on the chat and whatnot during the game. They were impressed with just Iowa State and knowing that there's probably more down the road that will be even more of a tough environment to play in. But yeah, they've noticed that already pretty quickly. And Houston, thankfully, they're in that spot themselves after some success over the, in the Kelvin Sampson era, to where they're providing their own for those that come in too. They've done a good job of supporting, selling out the Fertitta Center especially for the Big 12 games. I have no doubt it'll be packed for all those.
Yep. In fact, I believe K-State, Gills, correct me if I'm wrong, is down there on next Saturday.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, it's coming up fast. I think someone better be booking travel here pretty soon. The boss is just, behind the scenes here, just not getting it done. But we don't want to talk about. I want to, first of all, let's go to this window real quick. Oh, I didn't want you guys over there, Rob. I'm kicking you out real quick. This is where I suck at this. Add to stage, and now add to stage. There, I can't get the camera to quite color correct right. It's not that pink in here. but that is dude currently killing a whale. It's dangerous around here, folks. But we don't need him in here. We need this dude in here. Look who's back from. I haven't mentioned what your procedure was, but it was a deep and probing procedure that everyone should receive as their 50s approach.
Oh. Absolutely. What's going on? I'm glad to be back. You know, I think I built it up in my mind to be way worse than it was, but when you're asleep, you don't remember anything. So I'm good to go. I am good to go. Yep. So got some rest, and I'm back and ready to go, man. How's it going, Rob? How you doing, man?
Doing good. How about you? Obviously, better now.
There you go.
Or maybe not better now.
But Rob, back to this topic. Does it feel like Coach Sampson in the locker room have got this settled in now? Where every night it's a thing. We there's no off nights in the Big 12.
Yeah, I think they got it. I think they got it down. I think Kelvin Sampson does a good job of representing that, and you know, his coaching style everyone's seen over the years, especially what they've done lately, building up towards now. I think I've said it before, but they're to the point now where they're that perennial team that's going to be in the tournament every year. Obviously, we'll see how that shakes out now that they're in the Big 12. They're with the added competition. There may be years, you know, where they struggle depending on how that plays out, but I think they're that perennial tournament team now, and they're just waiting to find the right mix and have the right mix on hand for 1 year and get the good draw type thing and be able to make a run to that first national championship. So I don't know if I would say that is this year, just based off of what they have and, you know, where they're at in terms of some of the young guys developing. But I think they're a tournament team, and I think he'll get them straightened out. There'll be some, you know, it's in a way, in my opinion, it's good that they lost a couple of these up front for the fan base as well as for the players and the team itself, in case anybody was still wondering. But that should definitely wake them up. And I think they'll continue to tinker a little bit with the rotations, hoping to try to find ways to cover up when the LJ Cryer has an off night type thing. Where else can we find the points at?
Well, next up for Houston, I believe, is UCF.
Yeah, they come off a big win.
I know. And now everyone
controversial win.
Explain. Well, it was the win wasn't the post game.
The post game was.
Let's get into that in a second. That's a good topic. I'm glad you reminded me of that. But I now would like everyone in this panel. I'll mute my mic. Explain UCF to me. Someone explain UCF to me, because I can't explain UCF. I thought they were going to be the whipping boy. Everyone's going to get their licks in on UCF, and okay, they win at home. They upset Kansas. That's cool. You know, hey, that happens. We've seen it. Then they win at Texas, and I have no explanation. Rob, this should be an easy win, but I don't think you can count on that anymore.
But obviously, UCF's riding high. Everyone took notice when they beat Kansas at home, like you said. Okay, you know, not the end of the world. Impressive, but then they got a little cocky on the social media with the L's and the Jayhawks and stuff. Everyone made note of that. But I'll tell you what, they're starting to agitate a few folks in the Big 12. They might want to be careful over there. But no, hey, if you're winning and backing it up on the court, so be it, I guess, right?
Yep. Gilbert, we saw UCF in the Big 12 opener, and granted, Tyler Perry played one of his better games. He shot it extremely well, and when K-State has him do that, which unfortunately is kind of rare, they're really good, and they beat him by 25. But now, you know, when I saw that team, I'm like, this team has got the dudes that look like they could play. It didn't look like they were outmanned. I just think they needed to rise to the occasion and realize we're in the big boy leagues now. We better step up or we're going to get our feelings hurt.
Yeah, I know you guys talked about that KU-UCF game yesterday on this show. Like, KU didn't do anything fluky to, like, you know, lose that game or anything like that. Like, UCF won. UCF won that game. And so UCF, I mean, I think the biggest thing from that first game in Manhattan, you mentioned it, Fitz, just kind of get your jitters out of your system. You're playing in a new league. You kind of got to see what – I know Bramwich wasn't raucous or anything like that. It really wasn't. It was still winter break for the students. But you got to see what a Big 12 environment was like. And you got that out of your system. You move forward. And that's the thing that Jerome Tang is always talking about. Have one game seasons, right? Each game is its own season. And when you play a game like that, if you're UCF and you just you play poorly, you just flush it and you move on from it and you throw that game plan in the dumpster and move on. And obviously the Knights have done a really tremendous job with doing that. And they're doing a very good job of getting under the skin of some other coaches in the league, right?
Yeah, well, good for them. Good for them.
Yeah,
Brien, I'm going to have you do a mini make it make sense. Rodney Terry, after that game, the UCF players are throwing the horns down. Look, probably not the best way to say good game to an opposing team. I get that. But boy, Coach Terry went overboard. Those aren't your players to yell at. Those aren't your players to coach.
No.
Mind your own damn business and quit being
Yes.
such a sensitive little child.
Yeah. My thing is, look, it's college kids, number one. Take that into effect. Number two, you have no problem, and I mean absolutely no problem, when your team, your school, your university, fans, whoever, does it to somebody else when you win. You have no issues with that. But because you got beat and basically you got embarrassed on your home court, now all of a sudden it's classless. And you're telling the opposing kids on somebody else's team it's classless. I'm like, and you're cussing at them. I get you're a coach. You cuss at your own players. Don't be cussing at somebody else's players, man. I mean, my thing is, who in the hell do you think you are? And it's a good thing if it wasn't me, because if it were me and you cussed at me and you're not my coach, you're on an opposing team, I'd have cussed right back at you. There may have been something that happened. And I know a lot of people in our situation, they're not going to let – first of all, I don't think our coaching staff would have allowed that. That's number one. But you just don't cuss or coach or anything, try to discipline anybody else's players, especially on the court. It was even classless, even more classless when he did it in the media after the game. Just take your lumps, man. You lost and move on. That's all, because that's all this came down to, is them getting beat. They got embarrassed on their home court. If they had won, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But that's what it came down to. He was embarrassed on his home court, a game that they should have won, or they thought they should have won. I know we've talked about that. This is the Big 12. If you don't come with your A game, there are no easy wins anymore. That just doesn't exist. And I think Texas thought that's what it was, because Texas is Texas. They thought they were just going to roll and win, and they got beat. And Rodney Terry, just that guy, just make it make sense, man. It's crazy.
Fitz, you're muted. We can't hear you. Blame your dogs.
It was the dogs.
The dogs.
Thank you for keeping track of me. I love your make it make sense so much. Ryan Gilbert, you're the young, hip guy amongst us old, bald guys. Give me your thoughts on the Rodney Terry horns down situation. And don't I recall Texas winning in Bramlage Coliseum last year and throwing the horns up in front of celebrating in front of the students? I thought Rodney Terry said his team just went to the handshake line and won like champions, not taunted the opposing crowd or the opposing team. I seem to have different memories from last year's game in Bramlage.
Yep, I'm sure you guys have seen it on X or Twitter, right? I mean, it literally happened. Those players went up to the K-State students, and did a little horns up, and nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, I have no issues with that. I have no issues with UCF either doing horns down, right? You're going to do it. Somebody's going to give it right back to you. I think Fran Fraschilla, he tweeted this out a few hours ago, said it best. He said he learned as a young coach just to coach his team. And obviously you can control what you can control, but coach your team. If you're down by 30 and the opponent is keeping their starting five in there, call a timeout. Keep coaching, keep playing. It's like we saw this with Atlanta and New Orleans, right? Was that the last game of the season in the NFL? They lined up to go to just knee it down, and then they end up. So that's showing to the opponent, to Atlanta's defense, okay, we're going to kneel it down, game's over. Jameis Winston hands off the ball, and they rush it in for a touchdown with like a minute left, and they're up by 20, 30 points. And so play back, do what your opponent does. But if you're going to dictate something, you can't be mad at the other team for doing something, if that sort of makes sense. So coach your own team. Do not coach. Don't try to tell other people on the other team what they can or can't do. That's what I'll say.
The dogs are now barking.
Who here thinks by chance that's going to help the situation now by him doing that in the post-game press conference? Now, when you go to every other place that you play at,
man.
Everyone,
you know it's
Rob,
going to get on. You know what I'm saying?
every
Now you're going to
single
get
one.
it everywhere. You're going to really get it now.
everywhere. Every student section,
Yeah.
every single one is going to be doing that. And just read the room, man. Just understand what's going on. Just come on. I mean, again, it's college kids. You know, people are petty anyway.
Yeah.
And you don't think college kids are petty? My goodness. They'll remember that for years.
Yeah.
Years.
Yep.
They are going to remember this.
Yep, indeed. Look, if he thinks the SEC is going to give two craps about his school's feelings and his fan base and his players, they're going to see the horns down in the future so often, they might as well get used to it. Nobody cares about your feelings in the SEC, Texas. No. And you know what, frankly, nobody cares around here, but for some reason the Big 12 has decided as an organization that it's some kind of a horrendous, personal foul penalty in football and probably a technical in basketball. Give me a break. Yeah. As much as trash talking is on the field, really, that's what you're going to enforce. But that
was my thing. That's my whole thing, Fitz. As much trash talking that literally goes on in the things that people say to each other on a football field or a basketball court, you're worried about somebody's horns up and horns down when they're literally not saying anything. I mean, that's ridiculous, man.
I know. Ryan, you left briefly and then you came back. I was just hoping you were gone forever.
I tried to escape, but here I am.
Let's take a quick break right now. This is the Big 12 Insiders, brought to you by our partners at Synergy Financial Partners. Make sure you check them out. I forgot to give them a shout out at the top. Brien Hanley, I'm about you all the time, not to forget their sponsor. What did I do? I forgot the sponsor at the top. But here we go. Let's hear from our sponsors right now, including the great folks at Synergy.
At Synergy Financial.
It won't play.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the mission is to change the way Americans plan for their financial future. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
And we're back on the Big Insiders. I've changed Ryan Gilbert's name to fit what his role is on this show. Boy, I tell you what, just generically though, can anyone keep pace with Kansas in this conference? Houston should be able to, but they're already 2 down on the road, man. And you know what? What you can't do is lose at home, because Kansas typically won't do that. And you've got to collect all you can on the road. Gills, can anyone, or guy with hair, can anyone keep pace with Kansas in this conference? Are you there, Ryan Gilbert?
Oh, were you okay? You cut
your guy with hair. Okay. That's your name now, guy with hair. How did you think that was for anyone else here?
I apologize. I blame my Wi-Fi. Maybe Synergy Financial Partners can set me up with a good plan for better Wi-Fi service.
They can plan your financial future, but you're
absolutely
screwed on Wi-Fi.
So KU's played 2 road games, right? One against UCF and then one against Oklahoma State earlier this week. And so UCF, as much as we've kind of hyped them up on this show, I still would view them probably as more of a bottom half team in the Big 12. And then Oklahoma State, maybe West Virginia might be down there at the bottom, but Oklahoma State very well could end up this season as the 14th team in the Big 12. And so you're not winning at Allen Fieldhouse. KU might lose 1 game at home all year. They might, but it's going to come on. It's going to come up to these road games for KU. So I don't know if we can really fairly assess or judge this KU team yet. Get them to Hilton Coliseum, get them to Bramlage. Once they start playing in some of these tougher environments or against better teams, it doesn't matter about the environment. You're playing some better teams. Then we can start to say, okay, this is a 3-horse race at the top, or, oh, this team is going to run away with it. But I mean, with Houston, there's no shame in losing at TCU or Iowa State, right? So let's let KU play some of these tougher road games, and then maybe we can have this conversation. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with KU.
Yeah,
I feel the same way. I feel the same way. I just think the schedule is going to get tougher for everybody. I mean, we'll talk about this on the Insiders on Monday. I mean, K-State's schedule is about to just get loaded up here. I mean, so it's tough. This league is tough. And while Kansas is really good, I just on the road, I mean, like I said, they lost to UCF. You can't tell me they're not going to lose another at least 2 to 3 games on the road. I think that happens. Can you get one in Lawrence? Again, that's going to be tough for somebody to do, but it can happen. It can happen. But it just, I don't know. It's Kansas is kind of Kansas. They kind of do their thing. It is what it is, but I'm excited for the league. I'm just so excited for the league. I am giddy because I just think, again, and I say it on every broadcast, and I'm going to continue to say it, Big 12 basketball, it is the best basketball conference in the country, and I don't even think it's close. I really don't, Rob. I don't even think it's close.
Yeah, I agree. I think with the additions they made and just basically at where everything's at across the country in the landscape, it's tough to argue with it. You know what I mean? Top to bottom, really, really, really strong at the top, and then not horrible at the bottom like some other conferences would be. So I agree. You know, I think they're the best basketball conference, absolutely, and it'll be interesting to see just how many people they get in, how many teams they get in the tournament at the end. I got distracted a while ago because I forgot when the schedule came out a while back what a big deal this was. I was scrolling real quick to see what was coming up, and who did Houston anger to get Texas on the road followed by Kansas on the road back to back? Like, how'd that work out exactly?
It's like chumming the waters there. Just get some blood out
and
there.
And that's coming off of K-State. They go at Texas and then that weekend at Kansas on a Saturday in fog.
Wow.
That ought to be a fun one.
Yep.
Fitz, what is the number of teams the Big 12 has ever got in? Now, the difference is for a long time it was 12, and for a long time it was only 10. Is it 8 that's gotten in? Is that the most?
9. I think
9?
I think in the 12 days there was 9 at one point, but 8, sure. Well, that was last year, right, Gills? 8.
You've got 8 in the 10-team format.
Correct.
Number of times.
I think they're going to be around 10. I mean,
I would think it's got to be
crazy,
unless it gets there's so much cannibalization in this conference that those middle teams just can't win, and they end up floating closer to the bottom. Maybe that'll sort it out. But we mentioned UCF, we mentioned Oklahoma State, and of course West Virginia. Guys, I can't eliminate anyone else. I mean, I think BYU and Cincinnati are capable of playing at really high levels. Absolutely. They have. Oklahoma is stunning everyone by what they're doing. But someone's got to lose these games. This has been my point with this super conference in football. I believe that if there's going to be a super level of football, if you're not in it, you don't schedule those teams. Correct. Make them play each other all 12 games and see how those fans like being 5 and 7. They won't like it. But that's what's going to happen in the Big 12. There's going to be a really good basketball team end up at 7 and 11 in this conference.
Right.
And it's hard to argue to get them in, but their net rating, their strength of schedule is going to be through the roof because of what they've been through.
Yeah. Well, the last couple of years, the committee has kind of gone away from the mid-major. Like they'll put some mid-majors in, but they've kind of gone away from throwing, because you remember they would put 10 mid-majors in there, and hope for the best. And they've gone away from that now, and it's almost like they've said, you know what, we need to get more of these Power 5 conferences because it makes for better basketball games. We're tired of seeing the one team get either blown out or nobody showing up or nobody paying attention. And so they've gone away from throwing in a lot of these mid-major, non-automatic qualifiers. And to me, I know that's me being an elitist, but I think it's made for a better tournament. I really do. I think it's made for a better tournament.
By the way, guys, as we've been podcasting here, the Kansas State Sports Information Office has released that Ayoka Lee is out for 4 weeks. Maybe the best player in the Big 12 on the women's side, one of the better in the nation. She injured her ankle in the last game, played through it, but they decided after an MRI to shut her down for 4 weeks. She also visited TCU on Wednesday, where apparently injuries just happen, and maybe that played a role in it. But yeah, she's out 4 weeks. That's a kick in the shin to the K-State women's program that finally got into the top 10, and now will have to play without one of the best players in the country for a while. That stinks. Again, file this under Kansas State. You can't have nice things. Let's get back to what your topic you just brought up, Big B, the fact that more major conference teams are getting in. I read one of the I can't remember if it was Goldblum. I can't remember who it was, that Goodman. I mean, one of the basketball writers on the national set said the first 4 games, those 8 opponents, that teams that go to Dayton to get into the actual bracket of 64, and I'm with him. Those shouldn't be 16 seeds. If you're an automatic qualifier, you're in the bracket.
Correct.
That should be the last 8 at-large bids.
Correct.
Period. End of story. Make them earn. That should be for the 12 seed in every bracket.
Absolutely.
2 teams that are at large bids that'll make those first 4 more intriguing. I personally think they need to move them out of there and put them at whatever site that they need to be at. And that just should be built into the bracket. That I don't think it's fair that teams got to travel from Dayton to, well, Kansas State did it to Sacramento.
Right.
And that puts them already. You played a game and you got travel. So, but guys, what are your feelings about changing the first 4 to all at larges? And if you're a 16 seed from some crappy conference that got the automatic bid, you know what you deserve? You deserve to be in the bracket of the 64 teams. I truly believe that. You earned it. The at larges should be the ones working their way into the main bracket.
I mean, I don't know, so real quick, I'll just say that, like, with K-State in 2019 having to go from Dayton to Sacramento, or that was 2017, I'm sorry, right?
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Okay, all you got to do, win 10 games in the Big 12. Don't go 8-10. Don't be on the bubble. So it's not like a punishment, right? But you're kind of punishing them a little bit. And so if you want to make the 68 instead of 64, you want to give these extra teams a chance. I don't think they should be getting any favors. So Fitz, I may actually disagree with you a little bit. Just, if they're going to have to play on a short rest and go fly across the country, so be it. You should just be lucky to even be in the big dance, because if it was 64 teams, you wouldn't be there. So I think it's either all the 16 seeds or all the at-larges, right? It shouldn't be a few here and a few there, right? So I agree. I would lean towards it just being the at-larges Fits.
Yep. Okay. Big B.
I don't know. Yeah, go ahead, Rob. Well, here's the thing is, I don't know, Gills, because here's the thing. You say if it was only 64 teams, but it isn't. It's 68 teams. So you go based on what it is. So if it is 68 teams, then you just deal with the situation. You can't say, well, you should win 2 more games in your conference. I get that part of it, but the other teams qualified for the dance. So qualifying for the dance, and let's just be honest. How many people are paying attention to the first 4 games? Unless it's your school that's playing, there's not that many people that are, heck, even in the brackets, you don't even get to choose those. You're not even picking those when you talk about the brackets. They just give you those games. So the 16 team, if you're the number 16 seed, you qualified by winning your conference tournament, just give them a chance to be in the tournament. Right. The other schools, you know what? You are right about that part.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't have to be in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right about that part. You don't have to be in it, but you got to earn your way into the tournament. If they're truly bubble teams, then make them bubble teams. And bubble teams have to earn their way into the tournament. And although it is 68, we really only count 64. So make them earn that if that's what we're talking about. But put the 16 teams or the 16 seeds in, let them play in the game and see what happens. It's not like we haven't seen one win before. I mean, it's few and far between. It's probably never going to happen again, maybe our lifetime, but it's happened. So that's just my thought.
Rob?
That's fair. I kind of see both sides of what you guys are arguing there. I do. That's typically how people hate me for that, but I can see both sides of it, really. I mean, obviously, I agree with Big B in terms of, that shouldn't be for those people that qualified. You qualified. You did what they asked you to do to get into the tournament. And that's the makeup, and that's the way it's been set up, and that's your value for winning your conference. That's where you gain your values, the automatic bid into the dance. And so the other hand being Ryan talking about, well, then win some more games and don't be that mid-level team. I see that too. It's like the one team that gets left out at the end every time. Obviously, there's going to be 2 or 3 teams that they talk about getting snubbed or this and that. Is always going to be that next guy and that next guy. So while I see Ryan's, point of win some more games, I also think that if you've qualified, you've qualified. And that's a big deal for those. And I know it's still a big deal for those teams, those smaller teams that get to go. And it's still a big thing for them to be in Dayton. But like Big B said, nobody even pays that. I don't even start worrying about, oh, man, I got to get my picks ready until that's already over.
Correct.
You know what I mean? As we're filling those things out, that's kind of my reminder to actually pay attention to fill a bracket out.
Correct.
So,
well,
I kind of get both sides of it.
Yeah, another thing about all of that is people talk about those lower seeded teams, the automatic qualifiers to win the tournament, and some of those conferences complain, and they say, well, I was the number 1 team. We only lost 2 games in the season all year, or in the conference all year, and then we get beat in the conference tournament. Well, what would you rather have? Would you rather have your conference tournament on ESPN and you guys collecting all that money that you get, or not, and not having that exposure? Which would you rather have? And I guarantee you the conference had conversations with athletic directors and presidents, and they all agreed to have their conference tournament be on ESPN and make all that money. So if you're mad, go talk to your bosses about that, and it is what it is. The bottom line is, I think that, first of all, that's really the start of March Madness. And I go, so you got to understand that. Right. So be a part of it. And just win the conference tournament. I know that's easier said than done. I get that, but it's just March Madness. Everybody can't make it.
You're watching
Go ahead. Real quick, I'd like to see more conference tournaments give you a bye or 2 or a third, a triple bye, however you want to say that. Reward those like a Gonzaga. Gonzaga's, if they're good, they're going to be in, right? FAU last year, we saw the Owls beat Kansas State. They were going to be in regardless, winning that conference or not. And so there's teams like that, but then there's also, I don't know, a 16 seed that, okay, if you dominate your conference all year long, but your resume probably isn't good enough to get in as an at-large, and you lose one in your, conference tournament game, that shouldn't keep you out. So I would like to see you get like a double bye if you're a 1 seed or a 2 seed, and then get a bye if you're a 3 or 4, regardless of if it's that, if that makes it more logical or logistical, better for how many teams you have or whatever. Just give those teams that perform better in the conference play a little bit of an advantage in that conference play. I know you want the TV money, Brian. Absolutely. That's why you do these things, including the Big 12. But give those teams an advantage that earned it throughout the 30-game, stretch, so that their season doesn't end on 40 minutes of bad basketball.
I don't disagree at all. Disagree at all.
You're watching The Big Insiders, brought to you by Synergy Financial Partners. Go check out their website at synergyfinancial.com. They're great people. And I'll be honest, as a guy who started a business when I was young, I wish I'd known about them because they've got some material, some videos up on their website that show how much they can help young entrepreneurs plan for the future. Here I am, still selling farm fresh eggs at games from our cages at Bramwich Coliseum to raise money for food. Hey, Rob, we got a great question. And I know I'm a mess, aren't I? Great question in our chat from our friend K-Ned. How much of the Houston sports scene does UH command? Is there any chance of another kind of Phi Slamma Jamma level of excitement ever returning?
I think Houston as a whole, as a sports town, they do a great job of supporting winners. And so they have that capability. There's obviously a lot of local news stations. There's only one local newspaper anymore, of course. We all know where that's at. But I think that if as they build and if they were to get on that run, so to speak, where they're really going to make a push for a championship, they've already proven it by showing up and selling out the Fertitta Center pretty much week in and week out at this point. I know it's always sold out, but in terms of people, butts and seats, so to speak, for sure they've shown when a team's successful, when there's a big opponent, they'll come out. Football's still working on that. It got better at times. There's a lot of excitement right now. Obviously, with the staff change, people are always happy for that, right? And so I think we saw a little bit last year with the better schedule being in the Big 12, the better opponents. I think we already saw some of it translate at times on the football field. But basketball is the easy one less seats, obviously, and way more success at the moment. I think to answer the original question, I think that, I mean, they absolutely have that ability to get the city behind them. Like I said, this city will turn out in droves, and they've got a good little bit of local, like, sports celebrity. There's always people at the games from the Texans, or sometimes from the Rockets, or there's always or even celebrities, just general celebrities and musicians and stuff that are always coming through. So it's become one of those kind of cool things to go do, you know what I mean, in the city. At least once or twice show up over there. They have a lot of former players that come back when they have time as well. So it's kind of become the it thing in terms of basketball in the city, and that has a little bit to do with the Rockets being down some right now as well, probably for those diehard basketball fans. But I absolutely think they can get back to a point where the city embraces what they're doing at a bigger level.
Gotcha. One other thing before I let you go, Rob. You brought up football. If I had to rank football hires on a schedule of 1 to 10, Houston with Willie Fritz was a 73 on a scale 1 to 10.
Yeah.
That is a great hire. We're very familiar with him around here, of course, because he's a Kansan, but also because he was Michael Bishop's junior college coach. So he goes way back into the DNA of K-State football history and the knowledge base of his fans. That's a great hire, man. He's going to get him rolling, and
I've been pretty impressed out of the gates. He's the staff's come in, and you can tell a change just in the attention to detail. Talking to some of the players and parents and whatnot, everybody seems to be really impressed with the way they've handled themselves, the way they've come in, the being present part of it, which is something that I think the last staff kind of fell into bad times on, and that probably what led to their demise ultimately. This staff is like the polar opposite of what Holgorsen was, in terms of they're going to be there every day, all day. It's like Coach Fritz said in his opening press conference. That's he doesn't have any hobbies. He's football and home for his family, and that's it. So he's either all football or all, when he's in the little bit of time, he goes back home and does family stuff. So Houston fans are happy because of that. A lot of the things that they saw wrong with the last staff is immediately fixed with this new one. And then, we'll see how it goes, obviously once the season rolls around and all that, and see how it pans out on the field. But from this level so far, I've been pretty impressed.
I got to admit, I'm a little worried about the Red Bull dealer in Houston. That's a big drop off in sales.
That is a hit.
Lose Dana Holgorsen, but Willie Fritz is the big deal. You just described Bill Snyder and how you described Willie Fritz, and I think that's why K-State fans appreciate him so much. It's about the coaching, and it's about the family, and everything else is an unneeded distraction.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, we appreciate it very much joining us here on the Big Insiders. You will be back.
Yes,
eventually. We'll have you back, because not only do we like you, but you did a good job and you shaved for us.
It's the little things.
Okay. We're sponsored by Synergy Financial, and we'll be right back after this break.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the vision is to build the world's largest consumer financial education and empowerment company. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
And we are back. Boy, that camera looks awful. But that's Daphne laying there. That's one of the killer dogs that Ryan Gilbert is avoiding.
Who's Ryan Gilbert? You mean bartender?
Yeah.
You're having way too much fun with this, by the way.
I couldn't remember your GPC Ryan G or something. Nobody
You had
cared.
it. That's right.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Bart,
I changed my own, or is that only? Can you?
You can do that.
Okay. I might have to change it to something funny. We'll see.
Okay. I don't. You're probably, all of you are probably in the actual editing studio, aren't you? You could, boys, you got all the power too. You could just play video over the top of it.
I can hit end stream right now if I wanted to. I have the code for the button.
Guys, this is an interesting phase of Big 12 basketball. We're 4 games in of an 18-game schedule, and I feel like over the next 4, we're going to really see this conference begin to define who's upper and who's lower.
Yeah, I think so. Especially K-State. K-State, I mean, their schedule, I'm not saying their schedule's been easy up to this point, especially just coming off a game against Baylor, but it really heats up. I mean, after this weekend, I mean, it just goes bananas, and we're going to find out really how good K-State is. But we're going to find out how good the entire conference is. Just like you said, Fitz, there's just no gimmies. There's just no gimmies, man. You can't go anywhere and just say, yeah, we're going to get a win tonight. It's bring your A game or lose. And I think Baylor found that out. And because K-State didn't play well. That's the thing. They played, I don't want to say they played bad because I think they defended well, but they didn't play well. And Baylor didn't bring their A game and still got beat on the road against a team that didn't play well. That's how good this conference is.
Yep, I agree. Gilbert, are you up to something? I feel like you're up to something. Okay.
No,
okay.
I'm not changing my name. I promise. I'm not typing anything in there right now as we speak. But
I don't think it'll be yours you change. But go ahead.
Just generally speaking, Fitz and Big B, it's going to come down to what teams can win on the road. We talked about that earlier with KU. We'll know more about them. Can they steal some of those wins? Protecting home court is very important, but if I was a betting man, I would take, the home teams to straight up win more often than not, regardless of who the team at home is, regardless of who the away team is. It's going to come down to which teams can steal those wins on the road. K-State's obviously got one under its belt. You would have loved to have had two. And it's crazy to think this, guys. Like, K-State is a single point away from being undefeated through 4 games in the Big 12.
Crazy.
It's really hard to wrap your mind around that when you think about where this team had been at certain points earlier in the season. And so it's just going to come down to stealing road games. It really is. Protect your home court, which I think pretty much every team is capable of doing, with maybe the exception of Oklahoma State. But we saw West Virginia knock off Texas out there in Morgantown. And so it's so tough to win on the road. And you hear all these cliches about the Big 12, but it's just so true.
Yeah.
So true.
It is. Saturday's games in the conference starts with a doozy. Baylor at Texas is 11 a.m. tip. That is on ESPN. That is one of only 3 of the 7 Big 12 games this Saturday that won't be on the Plus platform. I've got a daily delivery coming up about that for, I believe, Sunday, about how this is just the way it works. The ESPN's only got so many slots, and the Big 12's gone from 10 teams, which is 5 games on a Saturday, to 14, which is 7 games, and the other 2 are getting chucked over onto Plus. After that, we've got Oklahoma at Cincinnati. That could be a really good game at noon on Big 12 Now, which is ESPN Plus. I wish they'd have a Big 12 Now channel on there if they're gonna say it is, so I could just go to that. But no, it's just basically ESPN Plus. As we mentioned earlier, UCF is at Houston. That's a 1 p.m. tip off on Plus. Iowa State and TCU in Fort Worth, that could be a doozy on ESPNU at 1. KU and West Virginia, that who knows? I mean, KU already lost to UCF, but I don't see that happening, even though West Virginia's beaten Texas this conference. That's on Plus. Then BYU and Tech is on ESPN2 at 5. That could be a really good game. And, of course, the nightcap turns out to be Oklahoma State at Kansas State, 6 p.m. In Bramlage Coliseum. Also on Plus, it is Lavender out at Bramlage Coliseum. Gills, do you even own Lavender?
So it's funny. This is my new bedroom setup, right? I'm looking at all of my clothes right in front of me. In my closet. I don't have any lavender, man. I got a ton of purple, no lavender.
Okay, that's right.
This whole lavender trend didn't really start until after I had graduated. And at that point, I'm not buying any more K-State stuff at this point in my life because I work for you, Fitz, and you give me free clothes, right?
Look at that sweet ass thing.
What are we going to get the new looks, by the way?
I think they're coming. They're coming. Even got some for Big B coming, hopefully. Yep, we're getting all new 24/7 sports gear stitched. I wanted it for the start of this, but here I am. Bum. I'm a bum. I'm just wearing my Callaway, and of course, Big B's wearing his Steelers stuff. I've given him permission just to wear that every show because it matches the set.
You look great, Brien.
We're still in mourning, Fitz. We're still in mourning after being cheated in Buffalo, after just being robbed of a victory in Buffalo, although we got blown out, but robbed of a victory in Buffalo. That I'm in mourning.
Okay.
If you guys ask me about my future at Go Power Cat, I'm gonna walk. I'm just gonna walk straight out, right?
Yeah, don't do that. Well, Daphne pretty much sums up how this show's ending. A little bit sleepy down there in the lower middle. But guys, before we go, I'm really bummed about Aiko Lee, Yoki. I can't say her first name. I'm just bummed. She's such a good kid to miss all last year with an injury, and now this. I don't know, man. Hopefully they can persist. Luckily, this isn't a one-trick pony. This team's really deep and good. Maybe they can survive this 4 weeks without too much damage.
Well, glass half full. She'll be back by, you would think, March Madness, right? So It's not season ending. So
no,
find the positives and stuff like this.
Yeah, I mean, the other positive is not a knee. If it's a knee, I think it's a season. She's gone for the season. Where an ankle, I mean, as long as it's not torn ligaments, and if you're coming back, clearly it's not. So I think, just like you said, Gills, just positive things. She'll be back. We can survive. As long as she comes back healthy for the tournament, I think they'll still be able to make a nice deep run.
I would agree.
To loop it into like men's basketball as well, like Quez Glover, when they lost him for the year, that's a far worse injury, especially with what he went through to come back and be ready to go to start Big 12 play. And he suffers that season-ending injury in practice. Just, Jerome Tang's message to him was just, I need you to be a team, I guess not a team player because he's not playing, but be supportive of our guys. We've got a game tonight. It was against UCF to kick off conference play, and we saw him on a scooter and in crutches. And so that had to be so tough for him. But at the end of the day, like, you can still be involved in the film room. You can still uplift your players. And so that same thing can be said for Ayoka Lee, right? Just be there for your teammates, and, you can be an extra set of eyes on the bench. Like, I remember K-State last year, Desi Sills fouled out against Michigan State. And was it Dream Dowling or Tang? I forget who me and Zach Carlson were speaking with ahead of that Michigan State game. But the coaches said that Desi Sills was the best coach for K-State once he fouled out. To see that game unfold and offer it, we talk about this all the time with like the coordinators, watching from up in the press box or on the sidelines, whatever. Just be there and help out your team. And then obviously it sounds like Lee's going to be able to come back, and this is not something that's going to be season ending. So sounds like all you can do right now is just be there for your teammates.
Absolutely. This has been the Big Insiders. Big B usually hosts it. He had a fun morning. So some guys fly to a tropical destination to have that, but he went to his doctor and got a hopefully clean bill of health. Speaking of that, I will be out on Monday for the Insiders because of my own oncology related visit to Kansas City, and Big B will host that show. It's very confusing. It's so confusing.
And I'll be there, right?
You'll be there. You'll be sitting in then on the panel as Big B hosts. You could host, but I like him more than you. That's what it is, man. That's just it. That's what it comes down to. This has been the Big Insiders. And Big B, I'm glad you're feeling good. I appreciate Rob Sellers. We go way back to the old rivals when it was a new frontier and he was doing stuff, and it's good to be on the same network in the same conference with him again. And we appreciate Rob stepping in. It's an all new week next week, folks. Who will Big B book for the show? We're going to find out, but this show is over.
This has been a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.